Oompa loompa doopity doo. We've got a film discussion for you. That was terrible.
Nice.
That was terrible, actually. It was
Chef's
not good.
kiss.
We've got a Wonka review for you. Wonka is out. Timothy Chalamet is young Wonka. And I think, Alonzo, you and I were very surprised about this movie, were we not?
My name is Willy Wonka. You see, I'm something of a magician. Prepare to be amazed.
Tape out.
Yeah, the Young Willy Wonka Chronicles. I went into this movie as a hardcore, like 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory fanatic. Like it's kind of my Star Wars in a lot of ways. So I was very dubious about the idea of revisiting this character, revisiting this material, especially after the terrible Tim Burton movie. The fact that Paul King, who made Paddington and Paddington 2, which are two of my favorite contemporary films, was both exciting and further like because the tones of those films are very different. And what I discovered is that if you think of this movie less as a Wonka prequel and more as Paddington 3, you will enjoy yourself. So yes, Timothée Chalamet plays young Willy Wonka. He winds up a voyage around the world and is ready to make his name in a beautiful unnamed European city as a chocolatier. But he quickly finds out that not having money and not having influence, it's an uphill battle. He falls into the clutches of a devious laundress played by Olivia Colman and discovers that the main three chocolatiers in town have an unbeatable cartel with the aid of the clergy and the police. The police being led by Keegan-Michael Key, whose character has a ravenous sweet tooth, but with the help of his fellow imprisoned laundry workers, including Mr. Bates from Downton Abbey, Wonka,
Mr. Carson. It's Mr. Carson.
Mr. Carson, sorry, wrong Downton person. Mr. Carson. Wonka will, but Mr. Bates would have helped too if he'd been there. Wonka will prevail, and the songs are by Neil Hannon, and they're starting to sneak up on me. Like the first couple of times I was like, well, these are nice, but I don't know if I'm going to remember them. And lately I've been like, well, there's chocolate, So they do, I think, creep up on you. Chalamet can sing well enough for this. The movie has a brightness to it in all the senses of the word. And obviously there's a lot of CG animation going on here as opposed to the very analog and practical effects of the original. But it's fun to look at. And, it's a sweet, cute movie. And part of what I love about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is that it is not particularly sweet or particularly cute, that it's much more acerbic. But if you put that aside, what you get here is pretty delish.
Right, because he's still young and idealistic at this point, right?
Yeah.
He's still plucky and effervescent, and he hasn't become the hardened Gene Wilder Willy Wonka that we will know him to be, right?
Child torturer.
Gene Wilder's got a twinkle. Yeah, I mean, Gene Wilder has a twinkle in his eye, but he's got a pretty cold, hard view of the world. And this is still him when he's idealistic and has all his hopes and dreams, and he believes in the power of chocolate and good prevailing over evil and all that. So I was surprised at how much I liked this. I thought the trailer looked like death. I thought it looked super cheesy and like twee and like cloying and shoving itself down your throat with, look how adorable we are. And it's not. It's got like an understated kind of Britishness and a wordplay that is very much like Paddington. And I just feel like everyone here is having a really good time and being goofy. Like Olivia Colman being goofy is always a treat. And we think of her as such a serious, important actress. And she is that, and she can be that. But when she goes for it with like bad teeth and a heavy Cockney accent, that's kind of a hoot too. I did not think that Timothée Chalamet was particularly strong in the musical requirements of the role. Like he's almost talking it a lot of times, and I'm sure that they probably did a whole lot in post-production to make that seem more melodic.
I'm not going to buy a Timothée Chalamet album anytime soon, but for musical theater purposes, I'd say he sells it well. And Olivia Colman, like a great many serious British actors, does come from comedy. My first exposure to her was on a show called Look Around You. But yeah, obviously she's made her bones playing, much more intense characters than this.
Yeah, and just like there's some really clever little like turns of phrase here, some really clever little details as far as what the chocolates do and how he makes them. We got to talk about Hugh Grant as an Oompa
Yes.
Loompa, okay? Because I was dreading this part most of all, perhaps, because in the trailers, it just looks so uncanny valley. It just
Mm.
looks like so cringy and just bizarre. And I do think that visually, Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa is the weak link here. It still does look really weird and jarring. He and Timothy Chalamet have a nice chemistry, however much they're actually occupying the same breath. Probably not at all. But there's a nice back and forth to the energy of those scenes. But man, it just looks really off-putting.
I forgave it. You're not wrong, but it didn't like take me out of it. I what I love about Paul King is that he, you know, now with Paddington 2 and with Wonka, he has completely seized on the notion that the best Hugh Grant now is the fuck you Hugh Grant. You know, like Hugh Grant for so long was the charming, stammering, like, you know, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Love Actually guy. And now it's like the crisper asshole he plays, the better we like it, you know. And so he's just so dismissive and like haughty and imperious in this movie, and I just couldn't get enough of it.
Yeah. If you eat too much chocolate, if Wonka inspires you to eat too much chocolate, or just the holidays in general, I like chocolate an awful lot. So there's a way, though, that you can maybe work off some of those calories, and that's with our friends at Carol Bike. They make a fantastic and extremely sturdy and well-made and fun and easy to use stationary bike. 8 minutes get you a great workout. They have fun little graphics and music that walks you through it. We have a deal with our friends at Carol Bike. From now till January 15th, take $250 off of your bike with our code, which is breakfast all day. Go check them out. A pretty great holiday deal. I have one right here on the other side of the Christmas tree is a bike. I promise it's there. So we have a link for them down below. Go check them out. Yeah, I can imagine that there's going to be all kinds of product tie-ins, Wonka-inspired product tie-ins based on this movie because it's just irresistible. Like, wouldn't you want to have there's one bit, I don't want to give it all away, but there's one really cool bit with like stages of what the chocolate does to your body. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
You remember what I'm talking about?
I do. Yes. Yes.
That's a very clever bit.
That is a great bit. I did have a bag of like Wonka gummies at the theater recently that were like top hat shaped, and they all seemed like they were the same flavor, even though they said there were like 4 different ones. So I don't know. I generally don't watch trailers. I especially super didn't watch the Wonka trailer, to the point where like a lot of times if I go to the movies and the trailers come on, I'm just like, oh, all right, fine. Fuck it, I'm here. Let's do this. Wonka trailer would come on. I would cover my eyes. I would hum to myself. I just didn't want to know. I was so nervous about this movie for like an entire year. I didn't want to know anything. I wanted to go in cold. And I have to say, like, it's charming on its own merits. If you don't think about it too much about like, how come the Oompa Loompa is this tall in this movie and is like, you know, several feet taller in the 71 version, you know, or how come Willy Wonka doesn't, you know, like make any children go into their certain doom here, you know. It's something else. They're doing something different, and what they're doing I think is mostly lovely.
I want to mention also Calla Lane as a young lady named Noodle, who is Wonka's friend, Wonka's first friend, and helps him with all the stuff he does. And she's got a really sweet demeanor about her, and they have a nice chemistry. So, what is your number for Wonka?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. I forgot.
I ask you every time.
I know.
This is not the first time I've asked you this question.
You think I would know how this show works by now? Tell me your number.
Okay, my number is, I'm going to say 7, because I laughed quite a bit and I thought it was sweet. Not all, no pun intended. Not all the songs are great. And again, the Hugh Grant of it all is still a little disturbing to me. But I watched it with Nick last night and we were just looking at each other like, wow, we like this. Not unlike our reaction to Gran Turismo, where we're like, we don't hate this. We didn't hate Wonka. And again, yeah, the Paddington of it all is quite effective.
Yeah, as Dave White put it, like, you know, if the original Wonka is like a 70% cacao and it's a little dark and a little bitter, this one is sweet and milky. And subsequently, I gave it a 7.9.
Oh, okay. All right, there you go. Good job. So Wonka is in theaters on Friday. This is an early review. Go check it out.